that down. Let's move on to this, shall we? You know, Apple, when in the world of entertainment, Apple is killing it in many areas, right? They've got some of the best shows on TV. Severance is coming back here soon. Shrinking is one of the best things on TV. Silo is running again. I mean, they've got so much good stuff on Apple TV Plus, and they've gotten into the movie production business. But filmmakers are starting to grumble that they're not having a great time with them. You guys remember the director of Roadhouse, Doug Liman, got very publicly upset with Apple because they said, like, hey, we had a deal. This was supposed to be theatrical and you guys pulled it and all this kind of stuff and all the brouhaha there. Well, now add another big director who's saying he's not going to work with Apple again.
Ooh.
Jon Watts, the director of Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Spider-Man Far From Home. And by the way, the showrunner of the awesome looking upcoming Star Wars series, Skeleton Crew, which I think that looks so delightful. He, of course, just recently directed a film for Apple called Wolves with George Clooney and Brad Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of you remember that shortly before it was supposed to come out, they pulled the plug on it. And said, no, we're just going to put it direct to Apple TV. And then there was an announcement that they were going to do a Wolves 2. And then Apple announced that they were going to cancel Wolves 2. Well, Jon Watts is now coming out, the director of Wolves, and saying, nah, you didn't cancel Wolves 2. I canceled Wolves 2. This comes to us from The Verge, that wrote the following. Similarly, Wolves became by far the most viewed feature film ever released on Apple TV Plus, as Deadline writes. But Watts was unhappy with the experience, telling the outlet he was completely shocked by Apple's last-minute shift from a wide theatrical release and asked the company not to announce that he was writing a sequel. This is Jon Watts' quote now. He said this: "They ignored my request and announced it in their press release anyway, like telling the world, oh, Jon Watts is directing a Wolves 2, even though Jon Watts asked them not to do that. They ignored my request and announced it in their press release anyway, seemingly to create a positive spin on their streaming pivot. And so I quietly returned the money they gave me for the sequel. I didn't want to talk about it because I was proud of the film and I didn't want to generate any unnecessary negative press, unlike Doug Liman. I loved working with Brad and George and Amy and Austin and Porna and Zalko and would happily do it again. But the truth is that Apple didn't cancel the Wolf sequel. I did, because I no longer trusted Apple as a creative partner. Apple didn't cancel Wolves 2. I did. And the reason I did is because Apple is not a trusted creative partner. That's a subdued but damning statement. And it also shows some pretty dirty pool on Apple's part. Like, he literally asked you guys, don't tell the world that I'm writing a Wolf sequel. I'm not going to do a Wolf sequel. But just to make Wolves look even better, say, we've already greenlit a sequel. He's writing a second one right now. And it turns out that wasn't true. That the guy had already told them he wasn't doing it and told them not to announce that, but they didn't anyway. And by the way, fair play to Jon Watts. That instead of, listen, and I'm not complaining about how Doug Liman, you handle your situation the way you want to handle. I'm not complaining about how Doug Liman managed the Roadhouse situation. But I'm just saying, good on Jon Watts that even though they burned him, he decided to stay quiet about it. He's like, look, I'm proud of the film. I didn't want to hurt the film. I didn't want to generate negative publicity. I didn't want to generate negative buzz. I just decided to stay quiet. But for the record, if they're going to go out to you don't tell the world you broke up with me. I broke up with you. So he stayed quiet until they started going and saying, oh, yeah, so we've decided to cancel Wolves 2. And Jon Watts is like, excuse me. No. You wanted Wolves 2. I said no. And let's make that clear. So I guess it seems that, they just kind of did him dirty and did this. Now, look, Apple had put out a couple of films. Like, it wasn't Children of the Flower Moon, Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that had a long run.
but it hurt them financially.
Well, it was a huge budget and a
Yeah.
long movie.
Long, expensive movie, and I
Yeah.
think they lost money on that. I think they've also had some glitches. I mean, listen, the issue isn't theatrical. The issue is putting the right movies theatrical. Wolves would have made a little bit of money because it was a modestly budgeted film.
They only ran it, so it was very limited. In our area, it was only in Regal, no AMC, or I didn't see it anywhere else. And it was only like 2 weeks, and then it was gone. So, I mean, they didn't...
And it had a very minimal number of screens that it played on. It was supposed to get a wide theatrical release. That's what they promised the filmmaker. And then they pulled... And listen, the movie belongs to them. You pay for it, you own it. I don't care if I have somebody like the best car recommender in the world. Once I'm the one who buys the car, it ain't the car recommender's car. It's my car. I bought it. I paid for it. My money, my thing. I get it. It's Apple's movie. They can do whatever they want with it. But if you want to have a good relationship with the creatives, and Apple does have a lot of relationships with a lot of really big creatives right now, if you don't want to sour that reputation, you probably should think about, number one, honoring your commitments. But even if you need to break a commitment, do it above board.
Right.
Like, say, don't go out and tell the world that that director that you just burned is still writing our sequel when that director has already told you, don't tell that to people because I'm not doing it. This is a way to hurt your reputation with other talent. And don't forget, it's not just Jon Watts. It's Jon Watts' talent agency now. And Jon Watts' talent agency represents a lot of different people. And you just drop too many balls like this. At some point, like, remember, Netflix is starting to run into a little bit of a problem where a lot of creatives don't want to work with them anymore. Like, they made a bid for Margot Robbie's new project twice as much as the next closest bidder. But Margot Robbie and her team said no. They walked away from it because Netflix isn't good about, doing theatrical runs, and they didn't want to do it. And if that reputation starts to get ahead of them, they could run into some problems. I'm not saying that they will. Maybe they'll nip it in the bud, whatever. It sounds like they are going to give Greta Gerwig's Narnia movie a theatrical run in IMAX. So it sounds like they're addressing that problem. But if Apple's not careful, they could sour and poison their own name with a lot of creatives in the business. And that's where your money is. So they just better be careful about this. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mando. Thank goodness it is football season. It's time for tailgates, touchdowns, and Sunday cookouts with the crew. But unfortunately, along with the drinks and the food, sometimes you also bring along your odor. And that is why Mando whole body deodorant should be an absolute tailgate game day essential. And that's why Mando's the MVP. It's clinically proven 72-hour odor control, so it's perfect for long days at the game or at the bar. I'm loving the Clover Wood scent, but they've got options like Bourbon Leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, and even unscented if you prefer to go stealth mode. I like to use it after the shower, before the gym, or even important meetings. It's that reliable. And right now, Mando's got a killer deal. New customers get $5 off their best-selling starter pack with my exclusive code Campea. That's over 40% off. Just go to shopmando, that's shopmando.com, and use the code Campea. Seriously, guys, if you want a deodorant that's aluminum-free, baking soda-free, and just works better than anything else you've tried, it's time to make the switch to Mando. So don't wait. Control body odor anywhere with Mando. Head over to shopmando.com and use the code Campea and get $5 off your starter pack. Trust me, you're going to love it. That's at shopmando.com. Go and check it out now. Anyway, guys, what do you think about this? Jon Watts has pulled a "you didn't fire me, I fired you" kind of thing out there, saying that he canceled Wolves 2 because he was promised a theatrical run. They just pulled it on him. He told them not to tell people that he was writing a second one. They did it anyway. I don't know. It seems pretty messy to me, and it doesn't cast Apple in a very good light. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.